You are.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Siege Spirit podcast. This is the fourth episode. This is brand new, but I'm also planning on interviewing many other Siege content creators. So I'm here with a special guest today, MatchPoint, all the way from the UK, man. I mean, we are totally different time zones. I mean, it's like we're like
Yeah.
totally different, NA versus EU. It's going to be definitely really interesting to see how different styles of Siege are played inside of different regions. So Matchpoint is a amazing content creator in the R6 scene. He's from the UK as well. I appreciate him for doing this. Probably in the evening for you as well. You've probably seen him on YouTube with his very helpful videos. Has a Twitch channel of many followers, an Instagram page of high quality Siege content for young lads trying to improve their mindset and as well get better overall at Siege. So I hope you're doing well, man. Anything going on with you today?
Today's been productive. It's been chilled, but it's been a great one. Hopping on test server as well. That's been incredible.
I see. How have the test servers been? You like the new sites and new
The new changes, like this is a season where I'm not just excited for the operator itself. I'm excited for like all the new changes with the sites. Like there's been more glitches, but the way I view it is I'd rather have more glitches in a test server where it's actually meant to be tested than having less changes. So I'd rather have more changes, more glitches, and that to get resolved. And I'm fine with that. But I'm loving it. How about you?
Dude, I'm having a blast. I mean, my chats be like, "Oh man, this new season sucks, man. I hate the new sites. Where's the ACOG, man?" But like,
Yeah.
what do you think about like the point five and the new red dot and like also the new quote unquote ACOG, but it's really like the a little bit less than ACOG. What do you think about those ops that like ops I had ACOG but don't have it anymore?
Um, I like the change. I mean, I always think the ACOG was like starting to fade away. Um, and like now it's just kind of completely faded away and everything's gone. One main thing is the red dot is actually not too bad at all. I think it's
I think
actually
it's really good.
yeah, half viable. Especially on operators like Jaeger. I've given a little test on it. It's not too bad at all. I'm liking it that the ACOG's been removed. I know people are gonna hate that the ACOG's been removed, but it's like a meta change in season, and it takes a little bit more skill to get used to it and adapt to it, which is
Mhm.
what I like. Cause I'd rather have it changing than to be similar.
What colors have you been using on your site so far?
So
Have
I've
you
been
trying them?
testing. I've been testing. Yeah, I've gone for the black is horrible because it obviously blends in, but I
Yeah,
think
just
the
use
main
the
ones
same thing.
the main ones are, white has been really good, green's
Wyatt.
been fantastic, purple. Obviously, bright colors make sense to use, but I don't think every bright color works well because yellow, doesn't. In particular, the main ones that have standing out have been, green, purple, and white, but yeah, white's really clean.
Yeah, definitely colors that aren't in siege that much. But if you're on coastline,
Yeah.
man, good luck. So, man,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
map is a colorful map.
100%.
So if you've been knowing all these sites, how long have you been playing Siege for? Like, when was your first time that you've played Siege?
Operation Velvet Shell is,
Mm,
back on the console, on the sticks.
really? That's actually one of my favorite seasons. I remember seeing the trailer with my Xbox buds from school. Be like, oh wow, that guy's like a black mirror you can see through, and then this guy can see feet, man. Like, I've
Yeah,
seen it
that
all.
was I think that was like the meta change in season. That kind of they should like resemble off every good season because like Jackal
hmm
and Mirror were like, especially Mirror was like game changing for the meta.
Definitely. So, like, what kind of made you want to play Siege? Like, what kind of drew you in?
Um, it was like it's just such a strategical and like it's an FPS like no other. Like there's so much strategy that goes into it. I think you can get into it as a beginner. It's not like one of them games where you'll get slammed as a beginner. But I do think you have to start off in the right direction, obviously.
hmm
But back then in the time, like it was an FPS that had so many layers and like stuff to it. It wasn't really anything like it at the time,
hmm
and it was so like deep and complicated. Like there's so many strategies that you could use, especially when it was in its early stage. There was like so much content that you could work out with it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what really made me want to play Siege is just like it was like 'cause I came from like Black Ops 3, like those search and destroy type of games. I
Yeah,
love search and destroy. I love playing the like intense moments. You have to like think correctly of the strategic moments. And then I tried Siege, and it's basically search and destroy, but like you know,
a whole
it's just
new
like
level.
a whole new way of like looking at it. You got
Yeah.
you got operators that can do like certain things. Like in Black Ops 3, there was certain characters with certain abilities, but those abilities are kind of like one-time thing. But these abilities in Siege were able to be used out like throughout the whole game, and could actually like do you could see like instant progress. And I think really thought of like attack and defense and how there's just so much more detail to it, and it just really wanted me to play the
Yeah.
game a lot more. For sure though. And so, what do you think? Did you come from any other games, like any other FPSs, maybe like online games, or you just kind of like find Siege on your own?
Oh, I don't think there weren't many games at the time that was kind of similar at all really to Siege. Maybe a little bit of COD here and there, obviously, but battle royales as well is another big one. Essentially, just a complete variety. Siege was another one to chuck in the mix, and other games like FIFA, for example,
Hmm.
those type of games. It was a complete variety. Siege came out, FPS games, quality, battle royale games, quality. Kind of put them two together, and then another FPS comes out like Siege with the depth and quality of that. And I think that's a no brainer for me at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure, man. So moving on to like the kind of like the meta part of Siege, we have a new season, we have new sites, new changes. Like this is probably one of the biggest seasons dropped in my opinion. Just so much new going on, like a lot of exclusive content, new operator, new sites, new map, everything's reworked. So do you watch a lot of like Pro League in the EU at all, or are you like kind of like looking at some of that?
Pro League is not much at all for me
How
due
much?
to time, but Pro League when you get to watch it, it's one of the best things ever. You could learn so much from it. It's unreal, but not too much due to time.
Do you cheer for any specific team when you watch Pro League?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if you can make me pick on that.
If you had to choose between three EU teams, what would you say?
Um, you. I don't think I could pick.
Really?
I honestly don't think I could pick. Like the EU side of things for Pro League is honestly like I think region obviously you have different play styles, you have different
Hmm.
tactics. But when it comes to like overall Pro League as a whole, I think there's nothing like it. And watching those teams match up and kind of getting to know the players themselves is like an experience like no other really. And especially with the depth that Siege had the game itself, combine that with Pro League, I think you've got an explosive combination. How
Yeah,
about
for
you?
sure.
For your team?
I.
For your team? Yeah, the question like I don't watch much
All
Pro League
right.
as well.
So, I mean, personally, I watch as much as I can. To be honest, it's just you just learn so much, and it's just very similar. It works out in ranked. I mean, like
Oh
ranked is
yeah,
just like okay, I'm gonna run, screw reinforcing, screw rotations. I'm gonna head out.
yeah,
I'm gonna spawn peek real quick. But
yeah.
if I had to say, I'd say definitely obviously the dominant teams. I'd say SSG, TSM,
Yeah,
and maybe a little bit
Sam's
Dark
unreal.
Zero and other. I think really like EU, just really that has like the movement, the aggression. I feel like that obviously looking at different ways to play Siege is always really important. And so definitely watching Pro League not only helps okay these are good players, but helps you kind of the decision making, how they're moving, are they peeking stuff, are they giving up their lives really quickly, or are they actually playing it for time and getting those kills when they actually matter. And I think that's a lot of those tips really do apply to like overall like ranked like no matter how you play a game, the Siege is just, I think people don't utilize the time that is given to you, and also like obviously the
Oh
utility. Like people are using ash charges to get inside the building instead of breaking it
yeah,
down.
yeah.
It's just, I think there's really the ranks differ as well. How do you think how the game is played down in gold and below versus like kind of platinum above? What do you think? What did the play styles differ from those two ranks? What do you think so?
So from like the mainly the lower ranks in terms of like gold and below is what well silver gold below is I'd say mainly it's getting a gist of the games getting a gist of the game in terms of the main three things that I'd identify as mechanics, map knowledge, and game sense.
Hmm.
Probably one or few others you can include, but
Yeah,
those are
those
the
are
main
good
ones
three
that stand
pillars of
out.
the game. Hmm.
Yeah, if you can knuckle them down as a siege player, and whether you're solo queuing is a bit more like a bit more complicated with like your mindset and stuff.
Hmm.
But if we just look at it from like a that kind of point of view, I'd say The main thing is mechanics, game sense, and map knowledge. Once you really start to knuckle down, get a warm up routine for mechanics, etc., that type of stuff in those lower ranks, I think if you can really execute and perform well with them, I think that's going to get you out of them. When it comes to the higher ranks, that's when it starts to get a little bit more complicated and a little bit more depth to it, like in terms of strategies,
Hmm.
knowing what knowing certain like the bans as well is a massive example of
Yeah.
how it differs.
Cav
Like, you'll
Clash.
see typical bans that people don't wanna play against when in the higher ranks, they're banning based off maps. Maybe if they know players on that team, which happens, and
For
stuff like
sure.
that. But yeah, strategy really comes into play in terms of if you have a 5 stack, knowing how your players wanna play, roles come into play as well, and, a lot of strategy, a lot of, runs that you can do, and, that's the main difference for me,
Hmm.
personally, when it comes to
Yeah,
that.
towards all that. So, who do you say you main the most, and is there any kind of particular reason behind them?
Oh, main the most. On attack or defense or just, both or
Probably both.
both? For defense, it's gotta be smoke.
Hmm.
If we're looking at like, just not having fun, like, obviously, having fun is whatever operator you're enjoying at the time, but if we're looking at it at a different level, smoke. On attack, it's gotta be ace right now. Ace
Ace,
is,
yeah. It's
like,
just
kinda nice mix between entry frag and support, I would definitely
a
say.
thermite in a can.
Yeah, yeah.
You throw wherever you
Um,
want.
but smoke is like, I think smoke's one of the best like, up there with one of the best
For sure. I
operators.
mean, he's like one of the oldest, but like his ability is just like is very consistent too. Like there's
Yeah.
sometimes like an ash charge might miss his plays, but like smoke grenades always
Oh, yeah.
affect the area it's in, as long as you just throw it correctly. I think smoke is definitely kind of an underrated up in lower ranks. Some people think like, oh man, he's not fast, he doesn't play sight, he's boring. um
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of people have that, they think like, okay, how can I get the most kills in these ranks, how can I get like over more kills than my friends? But they
Yeah.
wonder why
Yeah.
they're not ranking up, is because they're playing the kill
Yeah.
game. They're not actually playing how the game is supposed to be played. If you want to, like, ranking up means you have to win rounds, not
Mm.
get a lot of kills. And just because you drop a lot of kills doesn't mean you're stuck in that rank, because you're just playing it wrong.
Yeah.
People just kind of have that different mind. And I think a lot of people need to get that redirection. I think that's what me and your content, many other people, will help out in the future. So
Yeah.
what do you think you're in the long term, what do you think your content wants to accomplish in Siege?
And the long term for content has gotta be sending beginners in the right direction, moving on to advanced, plays. Like, when beginners start, either you'll get people like, obviously, there's a lot of factors outside of Siege, but you'll get people who, have kind of had experience with other games and already have that mindset, that they need to work on themselves, improve them. Where there's other people who are just completely, like you mentioned, focusing for kills. And the main thing is shifting the mindset from it's somebody else's fault to it's actually my fault and I need to work on stuff and I need to start improving. As well,
Mhm.
like you said, you need to stop playing for kills and instead play for the win, play time. That's a massive thing, is because beginners are going to go so wrong when that happens. And if you can start off in the right mindset, I think the mechanics and other stuff is going to come into play once you realize you've got to improve them. You realize how much work you've got to put in for it.
Mhm. And also, listen, I've been seeing like when I'm just going through my feed and all that kind of stuff, I see a lot of Gary, and I see a lot of David Meltzer, and I see that you follow him as well. So like,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
followed
that's
them for
like,
you
yeah, I'm
for
like,
David.
yeah. To be honest, I think I've been following both those guys since like uh mid October of last year. And I think they've
Really?
definitely been helping out with improving myself and my content in general. Just overall. David Meltzer probably for the mindset, the soul, and then Gary's like
Yeah.
the hard, going hard
Yeah.
and every day, all that kind of stuff. So I think they have a really big impact on people like us and all that. So what would you kind of take away from their, how have they benefited you a little bit in your kind of lifestyle kind of type?
It's like a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Anything?
I found like Gary, would have been like March around that time, springtime. David was only very recently from you. Gary's essentially realized, made me realize that I can't blame it on other stuff. Like, it all comes down to me.
Mm-hmm.
which obviously you can apply to Siege, but like I can't feel entitled to something because I put the work in. Where it just doesn't work like that. If the market doesn't like it, then that's what happens, and you've got to adapt to that and change that. I think the main thing is focusing on that it's your problem and you have to work on it, and you're not going to get it overnight. And the fact is, you have to put so much work in, and at the end of the day, you're not guaranteed anything from that work in the very end of the story.
And that keeping the consistency up as well. So, like, kind of like on this kind of topic and all that. What do you think makes a good Siege player? Like mechanically, mentally, all that kind of stuff. What do you think? What defines a good Siege player?
Finds a good Siege player. That's a big one. For
It's definitely a vague question, but what would you say is the first thing that you would look at in a player?
I look at I honestly think in a five stack situation,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think mentality is absolutely huge. Um, I think how you play in a team is really, really important as well. Like you can tell kind of your vibes from the game, whether you're the type of teammate who's to pick your teammates up and look and analyze your gameplay to yeah, mentality is got to be the biggest one, and how you play in the team and your communication. Because if you have your mentality in the right place, where you realize you've got to work on yourself, and every time you lose a round, you don't go ahead and blame your teammates or blame something else and get
Mm-hmm.
toxic. Instead, you pick the team up, kind of the IGL, and you pick the team up, and then you analyze what you did wrong as a team, how you can move forward, and the mentality. If you have that right, everything else, the mechanics and everything, is going to come with it. I think. Um, like if you're able to analyze what went wrong and how to move on forward from it, you can either develop new strategies from it, pick up a strategy from the enemy team. Whereas if you're just getting toxic in the heat of the moment, you're not going to pick anything or learn anything up. So no mechanics, no game sets, no map knowledge is going to come from
Yeah.
that. Instead, you're just going to blame your teammates, and that's a negative situation for everyone.
Yeah, like kind of not getting fogged by that anger in the heat of the moment. You could lose a 5v1. Obviously, that could have a big impact on
Yeah,
everyone's mind in the whole game. Whether you're
that's the
down
stress.
0-3, all that kind of stuff, people will just like just give up already. But I think definitely making the best out of your opportunities in the rounds as well. Knowing, okay, if I stay alive, I could definitely change this. Last round I spawn picked, it didn't work out. They shouldn't spawn pick again. Definitely just this little learning in Siege. I think not a lot of people know that it takes time to learn all of these mistakes. Like people might
Yeah,
hear a lot from other players. You just gotta play the game a lot, all that kind of stuff. There's really no other secret to getting
yeah,
good
it's
at this
true. It's
game. It's
true.
just you just have to put the hours in of ranked, competitive, even casual. Like if you don't know the maps, even like if you're like saying this game sucks, like all that kind of stuff, and you don't even know the maps, and you don't even know the operators, you gotta rethink this because this game will punish you for any common mistake, especially moving higher in the ranks as well. People like in silver be like, okay, I'm beating all the silvers, blah blah blah. I can take on golds easily, but I can tell you right now, when I started ranking up from gold to higher in plat, I think between every single section, like pot three, pot two, pot one, definitely fixing up those bad habits of like, okay, sometimes you don't check this angle when you clear this area and it actually costs you because good players will be there.
Yeah,
Definitely fixing up those small mistakes that don't slip by bad players, or don't slip by good players. And, obviously, I think uh, facing up against better people is the fastest way to get better at this game because you will definitely learn a lot more. And you can only watch so many coconut bar vids that you won't be able to you won't be able to out angle some people because But I think definitely it's just focusing on what you can control and what is not in your control as well. I think that's
yeah.
a big factor.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like as you progress up the ranks, when you go from each stage, like you mentioned, like each little increment, you're gonna realize how quick players are to punish you. For example, in gold, like you did mention, a player might not
Hmm.
punish you for a different for a different angle, but
Yeah.
and then you pick that up over time. Like obviously, moving from like silver to gold, plat to etc. It doesn't might not seem like a difference in terms of moving up from silver to gold, but there actually is because whilst you're progressing, every other player is progressing. And yeah, at the very end, you said about the variables, like you can't control it. That's out of your control. Like teammates, random teammates when you solo queuing are out of your control. They're
Super toxic sometimes.
yeah, they're a variable. You can't control them, so you just gotta ignore them and focus on your own gameplay and move up from that.
Mm-hmm. And I come to always this last question of every show. I would say the golden question: what are your thoughts on overall success in Siege, but as well that can carry over to IRL stuff? What would you say is some key notes that you would give to somebody struggling to find progress in Siege as well as make progress in their life as well?
Real life. I realized that you've got to take a lot of punches, and you've just got to be so strong.
Failure.
Like it's gonna happen. You're just gonna life is just gonna beat you up so much. It's unreal, and you've just got to get back up every single time. Even in Siege when you're D-ranking, get back up every single time and make sure you're like a bad storm or a bad loser streak is gonna last, but strong players or strong people in real life are gonna last. And
Mm-hmm.
remember most situations are gonna be your fault, and always remember to kind of look what you did wrong, move forward, and don't feel entitled that because of XYZ excuse that you can make up. You should be somewhere in life, somewhere in the siege ranks. Focus on yourself and improve from that.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my favorite things from David Meltzer is that tough times don't last a long time, but tough people will last a long time if
That's
you
it.
hang around those guys. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I saw that like a long time ago, but that's like one of my favorite things about him from him is just that applies so well for Siege. Like a 4 or 5 overtime loss in a ranked match lasts maybe like 10 minutes of stress. But then
yeah,
if you're stressing that over a day, people stress over like, man, I headshot this one guy in the last season. Like last season, that was last
yeah.
season. What are you talking about? Help me! Like we're on like a whole
Mhm.
different like state of siege. But it's like definitely, I think a lot of people play with their IRL friends at the beginning and don't know when to kind of detach for a game like Siege because if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like you can only hold on to any like no matter if they're like who they are, like if you really want to get better at this game and kind of like move up, they have to perform well, and if they're not performing well, that's going to be impactful, and it's going to be up to you if you are willing to make that sacrifice of okay, hey, you're gonna have to set up for this game, we're gonna have someone else come, but I think there's a definitely from a lot our advice for a lot of people is definitely those sacrifices that are, if people are willing to make like those mini ones. Some people like I don't mind if people want to play this game for fun and all that kind of stuff, but if
yeah,
they
yeah,
want to complain and they're doing
yeah,
not doing anything to fix it, then that's where that becomes a problem. But
yeah.
for sure, do you have anything that you would like to add on before we end the show on?
In terms of siege or
Anything like anything you want to uh you know things that have been on your mind at all, or you'd like to?
there's one thing in particular.
Hmm.
When the new season comes out, if you're gonna be running a 3x scope with Blackbeard and the DMR and a shield up, what are you doing? No, no, just leave.
On
No.
ruins and coastline, just
Oh,
waiting.
please
Hey yo,
don't.
30 seconds left of the round. I'm just trying to
Oh,
get a pick, man.
still waiting, still waiting.
Still waiting. All right. Would you like to roll out the red carpet for yourself and plug in your socials, your Twitter, your Twitch, YouTube, Instagram?
The YouTube is MatchPoint, Twitch MatchPoint underscore, and then the Twitter and Instagram are MatchPoint012.
All right. Make sure you guys go follow him on Twitch, Instagram. He has a TikTok as well, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So Matchpoint, I do appreciate you for doing this episode 4 with me, and for
Thank
everyone
you.
listening on podcasts, on Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you guys are listening, I appreciate you for watching today. Make sure you guys are following at Athieno on most Athieno R6 on all my socials to know when the next guest comes out and when this episode with Matchpoint is going to be live. I'll be posting it later on, hopefully in the next few days. But again, Matchpoint, thank you for coming by today. I appreciate you very much.